Story 1, The Girl on the Swing. Location, Canyon Country, Santa Clarita, 2019. Welcome to Nick's Scary Stories. Our first tale tonight takes us to a newly built home in Canyon Country, a quiet part of Santa Clarita where the hills roll for miles and families are drawn in by peace, space, and sunshine. But when one couple moved in with plans to start a family, they started seeing a little girl in the backyard. Only she wasn't theirs. And she wasn't supposed to be there. In early 2019, my brother Jason and his wife Layla bought their first home in a new development in Canyon Country. It was a clean, modern single-story at the base of the hills, big yard, fresh paint, and no previous owners. They were the first people to ever live there. Everything felt perfect. But the property next door was still under construction, and Jason used to joke that the landscape felt too empty, like there were too many open spaces and not enough people to fill them yet. Within a week of moving in, they started noticing something strange. Every morning, just after sunrise, they'd see a little girl on the swing set in the backyard. Except, they didn't have a swing set. And they didn't have any neighbors yet. Jason spotted her first. He said she wore a white dress and had long dark hair. Just sitting on an invisible swing, facing the canyon, legs dangling. He thought it was a neighbor's kid, maybe snuck onto the property. But when he stepped outside to say something, she vanished. Just disappeared, right in front of him. He didn't tell Layla right away. But the next morning, she saw the same thing. A little girl. Same spot. No swing. No movement. Just sitting there, in midair, perfectly still. Layla ran outside. The girl was gone. The grass. Undisturbed. Jason finally told her what he'd seen, and they both agreed not to mention it to anyone. Too weird. Too hard to explain. But that night, Jason woke up around 3 a.m. and heard something outside the window. Creak, creak, creak. Like chains pulling a wooden seat. A swing. He opened the curtains. Nothing there. Just the empty yard, swaying trees, and a faint trail of wet footprints in the dirt. Small. Bare. Leading away from the back door and stopping at the middle of the lawn, right where the swing would have been. They installed motion lights. The lights clicked on by themselves, almost nightly. Always around the same time. Layla started waking with bruises on her arms, small finger-shaped ones she couldn't explain. Jason's phone would play static by itself. Their Alexa once said, without prompting. She just wants to play. One day, Jason walked into the backyard just after dawn, determined to prove it was nothing. The sun was rising. The grass was dry. And there she was. This time, he saw her face. Her eyes were all black. No whites. No irises. Just dark, gleaming holes. She smiled at him. And vanished. He went inside and told Layla, "We're selling." They contacted the builder to get the house relisted. And that's when they learned something the sales rep never told them. The development was built over the remains of an old orphanage, destroyed in the 1928 St. Francis Dam collapse. Dozens of children died in the flood. Their bodies were never recovered. The backyard of Jason's home. It sat right where the orphanage's garden used to be. And yes, there had been a swing set. They moved out within 2 weeks. But the couple that moved in after. Last Jason heard, they added a real swing set to the backyard. Their daughter likes to play on it. But every morning, the swing next to hers moves by itself. Like someone else is swinging right beside her. Story 2, Where She Walks at Night. Location, Valencia, Santa Clarita, 2021. Welcome back to Nick's Scary Stories. Our second story comes from a teenager in Valencia. A quiet, planned community with palm-lined streets and well-lit neighborhoods. But sometimes, no amount of light can keep you safe. This girl started finding dirt in her bed each morning, thinking she was sleepwalking, until she followed her own trail. And discovered something that had been calling her from underground. In 2021, I was 17 and living with my dad in a 2-story house near Copper Hill Drive. We'd moved there after my parents' divorce. I wasn't happy about the move, but the house was nice, and I had my own room on the 2nd floor, overlooking the backyard. The first week was normal. But then I started waking up to dirt in my bed. Just a little at first, dry dust on the blanket, a smear across my pillow. I figured it came in through the window, which I sometimes cracked open. But it kept happening. Every night. One morning, I pulled back the sheets and found a clump of wet mud at the foot of the bed. That's when I told my dad. He laughed at first. "Maybe you're sleepwalking. You used to do that when you were little." But I hadn't sleepwalked in years. Not since I was 10. He shrugged it off and said we'd keep the windows shut. That night, I locked everything. Still woke up with mud under my fingernails. I started feeling weird in the mornings, tired, sore, like I'd been up walking for hours. My feet were sore even though I never left the room. Then I checked my phone's health app. It said I'd walked over 3,000 steps between 2 and 4 a.m. I hadn't moved. Or at least, I didn't remember moving. One night, I set up a camera in the corner of my room, propped my phone to record me sleeping. The next morning, I checked the footage. It showed me getting out of bed around 2:18 a.m. My eyes were open. I stood completely still for 10 minutes, just swaying gently, then walked out of frame, toward the stairs. That was it. No return. Just, gone. I checked the hallway camera. At 2:27 a.m., I walked past it. Barefoot. Covered in dirt from the knees down. I showed my dad. He turned pale. We decided to lock my door at night from the outside. I agreed. I just wanted it to stop. The first night he did, I slept through. No mud. No movement. The second night, the knocking started. Soft taps. From the inside of my bedroom. 3 slow knocks on the door. Then silence. Dad opened the door in the morning. I was still in bed. But my feet were wet. And there was a single dead leaf on my pillow. That weekend, he searched the backyard, looking for answers. He found something. Near the back fence, buried beneath a patch of weeds, was a wooden hatch, old, rotted, hidden under cracked flagstone. We opened it together. A narrow stone stairway led downward. There was no light. No air. Just that damp smell of soil and wood. I refused to go in. Dad went halfway down with a flashlight. He came back up seconds later, pale and shaking. He said the stairs ended in a dirt floor room. No walls. No support beams. And in the middle, was a ring of footprints. Bare. Small. Circling something buried. We sealed it. Poured concrete. Covered it with planters. That night, I dreamt of a girl standing in the yard. She had no face. Just long black hair and pale skin, and she held out her hand and whispered. "Come down again. We aren't done." I woke up screaming. I still sleep with the door locked. But every once in a while, I find footprints outside it. Small ones. And once, in the center of my bed, was a damp handprint. Story 3, the upstairs that wasn't there. Location, Newhall, Santa Clarita, 2018. Welcome back to Nick's Scary Stories. Our third story brings us to the historic Newhall neighborhood, the oldest part of Santa Clarita, full of century-old homes, dusty streets, and foundations laid before the town even had electricity. A retired couple moved into a charming bungalow thinking they'd found peace and quiet. But upstairs, in the floor plan that no longer existed, they heard children running. In 2018, my aunt and uncle, Lisa and George, retired and bought a small home just off Walnut Street in Newhall. The place was nearly 100 years old but had been renovated in the early 2000s, new roof, plumbing, foundation work. It had charm, space, and history. There was just one odd thing. The house had clearly once been a two-story, but at some point, the staircase had been sealed off, and the second floor removed or repurposed into attic space. The ceiling above the living room still had faint beams, scars of where floorboards used to be. When they asked the seller, he shrugged and said, it was removed decades ago. Unsafe framing, they said. You're basically in a single story now. No big deal. Until the noises started. The first time it happened, Lisa was in the kitchen doing dishes when she heard footsteps overhead, small, quick, like children running back and forth. She froze. The ceiling above her creaked with every step. She called out for George, who had gone to the store. No one answered. She walked into the living room, looked up, and waited. The running stopped. Then she heard laughter, faint and distant, like it was buried in wood. When she told George, he checked the attic. Nothing there but dust, insulation, and a few old paint cans. No raccoons. No pipes. No wires. They tried to laugh it off. But the next night, it happened again. Pounding above the bedroom. A sudden thump at 2:11 a.m., like someone had jumped from a height. George ran outside to check the roof. No footprints. No damage. No animals. The attic remained sealed. They installed motion sensors in the ceiling spaces. Nothing ever triggered them. And yet, every night after 2 a.m., they heard the same thing. Running. Laughter. And once, a knock on the ceiling light fixture, as if someone was playing from above. Lisa finally asked a neighbor, an older woman who'd lived on the block since the 60s. The neighbor hesitated. Then said, "That house used to be the local day home." "A what?" "For kids. Before proper daycares. Before the zoning laws changed. Your house used to have a big second floor. They watched children up there while their parents worked the packing houses. But then something happened." "What happened?" "The stairs collapsed. One child died. Another was hurt badly. The city shut the place down. The owner boarded it up, and it sat empty for years." Lisa went quiet. That night, she sat in the living room alone, listening. At 2:03 a.m., she heard the steps again. Only this time, they weren't running. They were walking, slowly, in circles above her chair. She reached for the remote. Turned the TV on for background noise. That's when the screen glitched. White static. Then, a whisper came through the speakers. "We want to come back down." She turned the TV off. Unplugged it. Went to bed. In the morning, George found tiny handprints on the ceiling light cover in the hallway. As if someone had been peeking through the cracks. They never went into the attic again. The house remains quiet most of the day. But every night, just after 2 a.m., the ceiling creaks. Children laugh. And sometimes, if you stand beneath the old ceiling beams and look up, you can hear a voice whispering, "Don't forget about us." Story 4, she writes back. Location, Saugus, Santa Clarita, 2020. Welcome back to Nick's Scary Stories. Our fourth story takes us to Saugus, a peaceful suburban area in northern Santa Clarita known for schools, shopping centers, and quiet neighborhoods. But sometimes, even the safest places hide something sinister behind the walls. In this story, a teacher moves into a condo, and begins receiving messages written on her mirror. Messages that respond to her thoughts. Messages signed with her name. In handwriting she never learned. In 2020, right before the pandemic, I got a job teaching elementary school in Santa Clarita. I needed a place fast, so I signed a 12-month lease on a small second-floor condo near Seco Canyon Road. It was cozy, clean, nothing fancy, a galley kitchen, one bedroom, and a narrow bathroom with a long mirror over the sink. The landlord said the previous tenant had moved out abruptly, but I didn't ask questions. For the first month, everything was fine. Until one morning, I stepped into the bathroom and saw something strange written on the mirror. "Good morning." The words were faint, drawn in fog, even though I hadn't taken a shower. No condensation. Just the message. I wiped it off. Thought maybe it was leftover from the day before. But the next morning, another message. "Did you sleep well?" This time, I knew I hadn't written it. The mirror had been cleaned the night before. I checked the locks. Everything was secure. No sign of entry. I thought maybe someone was playing a prank. Until I noticed something else. The messages were written in my handwriting. Only, not quite. The letters were too neat. The loops too perfect. It was like someone had copied my writing, but made it better. More graceful. More practiced. And then, one morning, I saw something new. "You don't have to be alone anymore." I wiped the mirror, but the chill in the room lingered. I started sleeping with the light on. A week later, I came home to find the mirror already fogged, even though the air was cool, and the windows had been open. And written in the glass was my name. Rachel. Only I hadn't signed it. And the R had a long, sweeping tail, a style I've never used. That night, I dreamed I was standing in the bathroom, staring at my reflection. But it wasn't me. She had my face. My eyes. But her smile was too wide. And she didn't blink. She just stared, and then traced a message on the glass between us. "Let me help you." I woke up sweating. The mirror was clean. For 3 days, nothing happened. I thought maybe it was over. Then, on a Thursday morning, I stepped out of the shower and saw a full sentence across the mirror. "You don't believe me yet. But you will." I called the landlord. Demanded to know who lived here before me. She hesitated. Said the last tenant had left after emotional trouble. Said she thought she was being watched. Wrote things in notebooks. Talked to her own reflection. Eventually, she moved out in the middle of the night. Left a message on the mirror in lipstick. "I can't share my body anymore." The landlord painted over the walls. Replaced the glass. Cleaned the place top to bottom. But the mirror? Still the same. I tried to take it down. It wouldn't budge. Later that night, I turned the bathroom light off and waited. The mirror fogged. And in the center appeared 3 words. "I miss us." I don't know who, or what, she is. But sometimes, when I look too long at my reflection, I see her lips moving. Right before mine. Story 5, The House That Holds It In. Location: Sand Canyon, Santa Clarita, 2022. Welcome back to Nick's Scary Stories. Our final tale tonight brings us to Sand Canyon, a quiet, scenic part of Santa Clarita, where large homes perch on hillsides and back up to thick brush and desert. It's where a man bought a seemingly perfect home with plans to restore it, only to realize the house itself was never meant to be lived in. It was built to keep something sealed inside. In 2022, I bought a house in Sand Canyon that sat at the edge of the foothills. It had been sitting vacant for nearly a decade, the listing buried in foreclosure records. The house was odd, square-shaped, thick-walled, with no back windows. But the price was unbeatable. And I was looking for solitude. The house had no basement, just a single level with unusually thick interior doors and heavy-duty locks, even on bedroom closets. Everything felt solid. Overbuilt. The realtor laughed it off. "It used to be a panic room house," she said. "The original owner was paranoid, built it like a bunker." I moved in alone. The first night, I noticed the silence. The kind of silence that buzzes in your ears. The second night, I noticed something worse, the smell. It came from the hallway near the master bedroom. Dry. Metallic. Like rust and hot stone. It made the back of my throat itch. I searched the walls for mold. Nothing. The vents were clean. But every night, right around 3 a.m., the smell returned. And the lights in the hallway would flicker, just once. Then a soft hum, deep in the walls. It was almost like the house was breathing. I installed cameras. One in the hallway. One facing the front door. One in the living room. The next morning, I checked the footage. From 3 to 3:03 a.m., the hallway camera cut to static. The others stayed on. But the hallway one, the one nearest the master bedroom, went black for 3 minutes. When it came back, nothing had changed. Except for one thing. A closet door that I always kept closed, was now wide open. I checked the lock. It was intact. There was no draft. No mechanical failure. So I tried an experiment. I left the closet open the next night. 3 a.m. came and went. The power didn't flicker. The smell never came. But when I woke up in the morning, the closet door had been slammed shut. And the heavy lock twisted into place. I couldn't unlock it. I called a locksmith. He tried for 20 minutes before drilling it open. Inside, dust. Shelves. Nothing else. But scratched into the wall, just beneath the top shelf, was a message. "Don't open them all." I searched the rest of the house. Behind the drywall in the office, I found a sealed door. It had no knob. No hinges. Just a cold, steel surface, like it had been welded shut. And carved faintly into the metal was a symbol, a circle with 3 slashes through it. I sent a photo to a friend who teaches religious history. She messaged back. "That's a containment symbol. Middle Eastern. Very old. Used to bind something evil in place." That night, I didn't sleep. Around 2:57 a.m., the house grew quiet. Not silent. Dead. Like sound itself had left. Then came the knocking. 3 soft taps from inside the steel wall. Then a voice, low and dry, like sand through teeth. Another door opened. I don't live there anymore. I never found the original builder's name. The permit records disappeared. The company that installed the locks no longer exists. But that house is still there. And every few weeks, I check the listing. It always pops up again. Same square shape. Same bunker-style design. And the latest buyer moved out after 1 month. Left this note with the agent. I didn't open anything. But it's getting louder.